Adrian here. So today we're going to be doing a music review. I know it's been a hot minute since last I've done a music review, but with my all-French operatic concert coming up in just a few weeks, it's a little difficult for me to devote my full time and attention to listening to new music. I know that sounds kind of mean, but it's true. When I am studying material for a show, especially a show of the scale that I'm going to be doing in just a couple weeks, it is difficult for me to sit down and actually pay my full attention to new music that comes out, because it's just one of those things where if I'm getting ready for a show, I'm listening to the pieces that I'm going to be performing, I'm constantly studying them, I am constantly writing the lyrics so that I have everything memorized, because I absolutely refuse to go on book when I'm performing most of the time, unless it's a very special circumstance. But my show coming up in a few weeks is going to be amazing, and thank you to everyone who has bought tickets already. I appreciate you so much, and I can't wait to see you there. So, about a month ago, the band Sweet Ermengarde came out with a new album called Sacrifice, and I believe this is their first full-length album in several years. They have really upped their game in this album, and I absolutely love it, and I'm here to tell you about it. So they reached out to me and sent me their album to review on my channel. Because this was such an unexpected treat, I had to take a little bit of a break from my studying in preparation for my show in a few weeks to share it with all of you, because wow, it's wonderful. So, since the last full-length album, which was Ex Oblivione from 2016, I believe, Sweet Ermengarde has changed vocalists, and I was really interested to see how that change manifested. If I had to describe Sweet Ermengarde and their new sound in this album, I would say it's a cross between Lycia and The Wake. It has this wonderful 90s goth rock foundation with some lovely dark wave and ethereal overtones, and in some moments it will actually drift into the realm of symphonic metal, and especially with the rough vocals of the new vocalist, Drew Freeman. So it kind of fits all together in a very strange way, but I'm here for it. So before we do a little breakdown of the album, can we just talk about the absolutely exquisite Art Nouveau album art here? I mean, wow. I am really thrilled to see Art Nouveau influence in the goth aesthetic in the last few years. This is a wonderful example of it. It has those macabre undertones and overtones, and just the flourishes and the movement. It's just so beautiful. I love it. And the artist who created this is named Billy Phobia, if you would like to give him a follow or check out his other work. So let's go ahead and break down the musical structure of all of these tracks. This is super exciting. I haven't done this in a really long time, but I'm really, really excited about this album, and I just had to share it with you guys. I had to. So Fragments starts off the album and enters with some cool metallic industrial noise, and then some deep guttural strings to set the stage for the very melancholic guitar tones, which I absolutely love, and percussive elements, and the emotional, smoky voice of the lead singer, Drew Freeman. I love the round of layered voices happening in the middle of the song. This is really, really stunning. And his voice really reminds me of a slightly rougher version of the male vocals of Lycia. So this was a really great way to introduce listeners to this musical journey with a very seamless and gorgeous transition into the next song. Faith Healer is next, picking up from the foundation laid by Fragments. After the intense intro, it backs off and becomes more melodic in instrumentation, perfectly balanced with the rough yet soulful vocals. Even when he isn't adding that rough edge to his voice at certain points where he's singing somewhat sotto voce, it is so stunning to listen to. The end of Faith Healer transitions incredibly smoothly into a reprisal of Fragments, with an absolutely stunning choir and some drums and guitar ushering in this lovely interlude of a mood setter. I really like it when artists do mood setter tracks in their albums. It's just so cool. This is almost epic and uplifting and ethereal in its influence, and it's just so stunning. It's actually one of my favorite parts of the album, in my opinion. Asylum Visitor follows with intense guitar and bass and poignant percussion, introducing the lead vocals, very much perfectly embodying the perspective of the vampire lyrically. I love the intense and sinister chord progressions in the chorus. It leaves you on edge in the best possible way. I love it. So I also love the little whisper chants that accompany the melody in the chorus. That's also a really good touch. And the bridge is just out of this world gorgeous as well. Wow. This song is so dissonant and sexy in the best way possible. It's like being enveloped in a storm on the sea. Love it. I think this is probably my favorite song on the album, if not one of my favorites. Sweet Sacrifice is next, with a cello-like guitar distortion introducing the forlorn guitar tones and driving percussion. I also like how the guitar during the verse is in unison with the vocals. You don't hear that very often, and it definitely caught my ear. And after the first verse, the electric guitar becomes a little bit more intense. The vocals become a little more legato and smoother as we approach the middle of the song. As we get to the midpoint, the percussion becomes a little more intense and the vocals transition into quiet intensity, which I just love. And in the bridge, that cello and viola accompanying the guitar and the rough vocals is just so stunning to listen to. It's so irresistible. It's like taking a breath and a moment of tranquility before the song ramps up in intensity again. And I love the epitome of goth rock and symphonic elements combining here. Wow. The Fifth Horizon is a very driving and intense piece, but it's also a bit more minimalistic in comparison to the previous songs. Not as many orchestral elements, but that doesn't make it any less intense and enjoyable. It's a little more rocky, but some of the guitars still maintain a bit of a melodic quality to keep things balanced. It was a nice song to balance out the symphonic masterpiece of the previous track. Soul Surrender is next, and it's a touch more melodic than The Fifth Horizon, but I'm really feeling that the vocals of Drew Freeman really shine here. Wow. The chord progressions in the 1/3 mark are just so captivating and enigmatic, and when the drums pick back up at the 2/3 mark to return to the original melody is just offering so much dimension and complexity to a technically, instrumentally simple song. They're doing so much with what they've got, and I love it so much. Then the guitar once again becomes more subdued and melodic, and other elements back off to transition seamlessly into part 2. So Soul Surrender Part 2, the bass in there becomes a little bit more intense to usher in the vocals and gradually making the more melodic guitar just flourish just a little more to conclude Part 2. It's really short, but incredibly effective. It makes for a nice little transition piece, kind of mood setter sort of thing. Viscera begins with droning, almost abrasive tones of guitar before flourishing with more percussion and rhythm guitar to introduce Drew's smoky vocals. Again, driving in intensity, but it still holds on to a very melancholic and melodic quality. Once again, the song wasn't long, but it was effective in balancing the epic and emotional feel of the previous track. Genesee is a really mellow song in comparison to the absolute aggression that we felt in the previous track. And again, I feel like Drew's voice really shines here. As much as I love like the gruffness and the aggression in some of the previous tracks that we've heard, when he's tender like this, it is so lovely to listen to, especially with the orchestral presence of this album. So even when the percussion and the guitars pick up a little bit, this is still very legato and languid. It is so good. The midsection gets a little bit more rocky before the second verse, but this is still comparatively tender, and I love the balance of this album between orchestral and ethereal vibes and the more aggressive, like modern goth rocky vibes. The bass line toward the end is super cool too. Silent We Mourn starts with some very melancholic guitar arpeggios, drums, strong bass, and Drew's voice. This is another minimalistic piece, but goodness, it is effective and so emotional. Again, I love the softer side of Drew's voice here in the chorus sections. It takes almost a choral quality, which I am so here for. Toward the end, there are very anguished screams as a background for a more intense refrain of the chorus and a little more of that choral siren-like quality in the bridge. Ooh, it was so good. This piece is just a little bit longer than most of the other tracks on this album, but that's totally cool. You really ease into it and it takes you on a journey, and I love the acoustic guitar and how it brings you to a soft landing at the end. Ember's Fall starts with some absolutely beautiful, deep, sonorous guitar and builds in intensity with a steady bass drum and Drew's voice. This is so minimalistic but so poignant and effective, and as the cymbals build up on the percussion, the tension just builds more and more, and then it just explodes into sounding a lot more metal-like in the chorus before chilling out again to sound a little more goth rock once more. I love how the bass and the bass drum are in unison in the midsection before we get the metal-like chorus again. This is a really solid crossover track, and I would totally show this to someone who likes metal and wants to get more into goth. So yeah, there's that. That's pretty cool. It continues with driving force up until the final verse, where it becomes more melancholic, minimalistic, tender, and melodic as it started. The solemn, solitary bass drum ends the song as a string-like drone takes over to fade into the final track. Of Her Heart's Ocean is the final track, starting with a singular drum beat, a bit of a slightly choral drone, and wind-like sound effects. And I love how the droning sound has a slightly chromatic scale glide that really builds up tension, but in the best possible way. I love it when that happens. And it becomes more discernible as choral as the piece pulls you in and has like a very alluring spectral quality that I really love. And there are even some metallic shrieks, and that adds even more tension. Finally, a deep string-like drone kind of takes over at around the 4.5-minute mark. You will hear a heartbeat-like drum introduce more layers of choral voices. This is so sinister and otherworldly at the same time. Toward the end of the piece, that windy quality dies down and you hear some ebb and flow of a tide. This was such a good atmospheric piece to end the album with after a very intense previous track. I was incredibly delighted by this album, and I sincerely think you will be too. I've been really busy preparing for my all-French concert happening in a couple weeks, so I've been furiously studying all of my art songs and opera arias, not really having that much time to sit down and give myself full attention to new music lately. So when people ask me, hey, what new music have you been listening to be honest, not much. I've just been focusing so much on my concert. Oh my god. And I know it's been a hot minute since last I've made a music review, but I'm really glad that I took the time and gave myself a little break to listen to this album and share it with you. So with that being said, thank you so much for watching, everyone. You are absolutely amazing. I really appreciate the patience that you have shown me in the last couple months. It's been a little crazy. Things are really picking up with my absinthe business or side hustle, whatever you like to call it, and I'm now a licensed bartender. That's pretty fun. So yeah, I have the ability of being hired for like events and stuff like that, or if I wanted to work in a bar, I totally could, but I'm probably not going to. But if someone wanted to hire me to be a bartender that specifically specialized in absinthe, I could totally do that, and that's really exciting. So subscribe to my channel if you haven't already, and make sure you hit that bell for more notifications so that you can be informed every single time I make a video. I tend to post videos about absinthe and Gothic literature and goth music and lots of other fun stuff. And thank you so much to my patrons every single month for your support. I really, really appreciate it. I cannot do what I do without you guys. And to everyone, you're amazing. I love you, and I will see you guys next time. Bye!